The morning I found myself again. The morning she left. I walked into my kitchen, made my coffee, sat in my old chair, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt alive. Back then I didn't understand why, but today I do, and I want to share it with you. My name is Walter. I'm 82 years old, and it took me years to admit this to myself. I'm not here to tell you love is bad. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm just an old man who learned something the hard way, and I would rather tell you now than have you spend your remaining years figuring it out the way I did. The man I was at 66. My wife, Carol, passed away in 2007. Blood poisoning. From diagnosis to her death, 8 weeks. For 2 years after, I was like a ghost. I'd walk into a room and forget why I was there. I'd open the refrigerator and just stand there, staring. But then, something changed. I'm a retired electrician. For 38 years, I solved problems with my own hands. So when something broke inside me, I tried to fix it. I built a workshop. A proper one. Workbench. Pegboard. Good lighting. I started small, a birdhouse, a step stool for my daughter. Then bigger things, a bookshelf, a dining table for my son. By the time I was 65, I had a routine that was entirely mine. Up at 5:30, no alarm needed. Coffee on the back porch for 20 minutes, rain or shine. In the workshop by 7, work until noon, a sandwich. A short rest, then back to work. It sounds simple. It was, and that was the whole point. I was content, truly, quietly, deeply content. When everyone knows better than you, then my son started to worry. It was Thanksgiving, 2012. Thomas looked at me across the table and said, in that soft, worried voice, "Dad, you seem lonely." I told him I wasn't. I told him I genuinely enjoyed my own company. He said, "You spend all day alone in that garage. That's not good." 3 weeks later, he called with a name. A woman from his work. Diane, 63. A retired nurse. Widowed. Just have coffee with her dad. Just coffee. Then my neighbor Phil got involved. "Life's too short to be alone, Walter." They spoke as if I were suffering, as if those mornings in my workshop were something to escape from. This is where I made my mistake. I started listening. When everyone around you agrees about something, you begin to wonder if maybe you're the one who can't see the truth. You start doubting your own happiness. The slow disappearance. In January, on a Tuesday, I met Diane for coffee. She was warm, easy to talk to. She asked about my woodworking. She laughed at my stories. On the drive home, I thought, maybe this is good. The first few months were genuinely nice. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't love, exactly. It was simpler than that. It was being seen. But what I didn't understand then, she wasn't seeing the real me. She was seeing the version I was presenting, the man who shaved every day, the man who made dinner plans. The real me was still in the workshop at 7 inches the morning, and that man, she wasn't going to like him. The changes came quietly. Diane liked to talk in the mornings. By 8 o'clock, she had told me about her grandchildren's school troubles, her neighbor's health, a story she heard on the radio. I am not a man who speaks before 9 inches the morning. That's not a flaw. That's just who I am. Carol understood that within 6 months. Diane never quite did. She didn't like my workshop, though she never said so. Instead, around 10, she would appear at the door. "Just checking on you." Then she would stay. "What's that for? Is it safe? How long will that take?" They weren't cruel questions, but they broke my focus. They pulled me out of my rhythm. Let me tell you something I have never said out loud. I wasn't angry at her. That's what made it so hard. She wasn't a bad person. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She was simply there. And I had built a life that needed solitude the way a body needs air. The morning everything became clear. The breaking point came on a Wednesday morning in March. 3 years in, I woke at 5:30. She was still asleep. I made my coffee. I stood at the window, looking at the workshop, and I realized I didn't want to go inside. Not because I was tired, but because I knew she would wake up in an hour. Whatever I started would be interrupted. So why begin at all? I stood there while my coffee grew cold, and I asked myself a question that shook me to my core. When did I stop wanting to go into my own workshop? I searched my memory. It had been over a year. I had stopped starting big projects, stopped waking up in quiet peace without ever consciously deciding to. I had shrunk my life to fit someone else's presence. That's when I understood what I had lost. It wasn't the mornings. It wasn't the workshop. It wasn't the silence. It was my belief that my way of living was enough. The truth I want you to keep. 2 weeks later, I ended the relationship. It hurt. She asked what she had done wrong. I told her the truth. Nothing. She had done nothing wrong. Thomas was disappointed. Phil judged me. But that first morning, after she left, I woke at 5:30. There was nowhere to be. No one coming down the hall. I walked straight into my workshop. I put my hands on the workbench, and I stood there until noon. Not because I had something to build, but because I needed to know I still could. If the people around you tell you that you must have someone, that being alone means something is broken, that your quiet life needs fixing, question it. Not because love is bad, but don't choose company simply to escape the fear of being alone. The fear of dying alone is real. I have felt it. But at 82, I know something I did not know then. Dying alone is not the worst thing. Living your final years as someone you no longer recognize, that is worse. When you are yourself, your mornings belong to you. Your silence belongs to you. Your workshop, your garden, even the coffee growing cold while you think. It is enough. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. For me, at 82, it is enough.